Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the latest instalment of our monthly CarpFix Live. As always, the main purpose of this is to do an interactive Q&A with you, the member. So get your questions in, anything carp fishing related, anything about our content, any queries that you have, whether it be seasonal or it could be about tactics, bait, whatever location. Just get those questions in, and once we've finished having a little 5-minute waffle, we'll get straight on to those questions. But I've just been fishing today myself. I can see I've got a bit of a suntan or a bit of a red glow to my face. Been over Blasford Hill floater fishing with a little prototype of the new Corda floater rod, which is a Kaizen Green. Blank last time I went to Blasford, so it was good to get over there and catch a few. It was also good to catch off the top, because I can't actually remember the last time that I caught a carp off the top. Certainly not a strong point of mine, but yeah, really exciting to go over there, pump out some mixers, like just keep feeding them, laced up in salmon oil to sort of flatten it off. There's no bird life as such. Lake wasn't too busy. We got there at 7:30, and within half an hour of putting the mixers out, they were just absolutely Pac-Man them. Obviously, they ignored the hook bait a lot more than I would have liked. But yeah, I caught a 28-pound common and a small upper double. And then the guy in the next swim to me, he was a guy I know from the gym that I go to. Let him have a go on the rod. He caught a 28.5-pound common as well, which is a PB for him, so he was pussing. And then Lewis Porter, the cameraman, he had a little go, and he had the 28-pound common as well. So all three of us had commons of 28, got a bit of content done for Corda, and all good. But other than that, I've been just starting over at Burfield, done a few sessions there. Nothing good or no action to report as of yet, but it's busy as you'd expect. A lot of really keen, really good anglers over there, and it's that time of year when everyone's like jostling for position, loads of people about. So yeah, I'm finding my feet. It's a difficult venue, and more on that a little bit later. But what about you, Scott? What's going on?
I can see you got the old Red Bull there still.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, sponsored by Red Bull. Not.
I've been working today.
Yeah. Going back to the floater fishing, is there a certain like hook bait and stuff like that you use? Obviously, you mentioned about you putting salmon oil on, but for anyone that might be, because it's still a little bit mild, I know it's cooling off now, but for the next phase of the heat coming, is there any top tips that you can give people?
It was Lewis's rod that was all rigged up and ready to go, and he had he said it was an ESP fake dog biscuit, but I'm sure it looked like an Enterprise, not dog biscuit, but those little brown like zig rubber things. Do you know what I mean? It's a mix of colours, but I think it was one. Either way, doesn't matter. But what he'd done, which was two things that he'd done that I was like, yeah, I like that. He double hooked it, so he'd gone in with the hook, come out, and then gone back in, and then come out.
Is it rubber?
Yeah, rubber.
Right.
It's not soft rubber.
Right.
It's quite squidgy.
Okay.
And then that obviously in, out, in creates more friction, so that you've got like a tension in the rubber.
Yeah.
And then he'd super glued a tiny sliver of white pop-up to the top of it, so you could use it as a sight.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I would probably tip exit.
Okay.
I think that's what I would do, just for But yeah, I really like the way that he'd hooked it.
Yeah.
And, they ignored it. They always do when you float fishing, whether they can see the hook link or see the hook. But yeah, they when it was right, they took it as well. And we caught. So yeah, I think the hook, when you float fishing, you got to bait constantly. That's one of the top tips. Put oil on your bait constantly feeding drifting bait through the swim. And with regards to the tackle, you want a fine mono or braid that casts as light a controller. I was using those interceptors from Corda. But you don't want to use a big one if you don't have to.
Yeah.
Because you want to be able to cast close to feeding fish, like slap it on the surface and reel it back quickly in front of them.
Yeah.
So you want a nice fine line that casts light controllers easily, and like an 8-pound mono hook link. I was actually rubbing a bit of sun cream up here just to put a bit of oil on it so it sits in the film better, and it was great.
Yeah, good fun.
Yeah.
Nice. We've got questions coming in. If you've got any questions, fire them over. Try and keep it. It's warm out there, unseasonably warm, isn't it?
We've had a crazy spring, as in. It's felt like it took forever to get going, and in the click of a finger, because we're already in May now.
Yeah.
It's like when the skies have opened, it's just got baking instantly.
Yeah.
It's like we haven't had a spring.
Yeah.
It's like they're spawning already on some lakes when it's barely kicked off.
Yeah, literally, because looking outside where my house is, it was literally over this course of probably less than 2 days, less than 48 hours. It went from no green to everything is out, it's just been crazy. But that, I think having a solid bit of heat for those consecutive days is just, that water temperature just shot up, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Which has obviously led on to some of them spawning now.
I think on that, it depends on the lake. If you've got a lake, it doesn't matter how deep it is in places. If it's got areas of shallow water that are sort of cut off from the main body of lake, where the sun can hit that and warm that area up quickly, the fish will come to that bit and spawn. Even if the rest of the lake isn't warm enough.
Yeah. And do you think, from like now onwards, so tomorrow it's going to cool down a little bit, and then cool down, getting down to single digits at next week, at night? Do you think the fish, obviously they'll be turned off from the spawning situation, you would have thought, but are they going to be
hungry?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So do people need to be going out and putting bait in, or just taking it easy?
I always think in spring you're better to go with caution before May. I always think that most of the fish I've caught have been on little bits of bait here and there.
Yeah.
But I think once you get into May and the temperatures are decent, that they are eating. I can think of one time going to Sandhurst, for example, and proper spamming it up. It'd been really hot. It went cool like it's going now. And I went in the middle of the lake, I think pegged 10 or 11, spommed it up heavy with tigers when you were allowed tigers on there. And then shit got real. They just came in, and it was like, it wasn't slinging pop-ups, it was getting them eating, And I think with this weather coming in, they could really be on the feed in some lakes.
Yeah, so bear that in mind if you are going out. Films-wise, we've had a couple of films that Stokesy and Burgess have been out on. If you haven't watched them, one of the latest ones was Rob over at one of the new Embryo Baston lakes, and I believe that lake, I might be incorrect, but you can book. It's a day ticket, but you can book a period of time, and you book swims.
Isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. But you can book onto that place. They've done a lot of work to it. I think they drained it fully down, or they made features and stuff like that. So they've done loads of work to it. But that's a really good film to watch, and Rob really shows, as always, the importance of moving if the fish aren't there. So that one's a good one. And then Stokesy's been at Orchid Lake. That one was out a little while ago, but we've got a part 2 coming the week after next, because the first session wasn't it didn't go as to how he would have liked, but he's gone back and. Again, he's not caught loads or any of the massive fish. It just shows that's what fishing is like sometimes. But he's gone back there. So we'll have a part 2 to that, which was filmed, I think, 3 weeks after that first one. And then, we've got Rob going to a new lake, which is in Wales. So we've not filmed over in Wales. So that's out next Friday. So we've got a couple of nice films, and then we'll be out with you soon. Yeah. And we're just talking about what we're going to do. And
maybe some float fishing.
If it warms up. I mean, will they get? Do you think you can get them at a place, like a club lake? Do you think you could get them going, even if it's not baking hot, or do they really need to be
reasonably warm? You don't. It doesn't want to be like a freezing northeasterly.
No.
It needs to be reasonably warm. You ain't gonna be float fishing with a jacket on.
No,
it's unlikely.
Yeah.
But on the right venue, they'll be high.
Yeah. Cool. Let's have a look at some questions. Where are we? Liam Banks. Evening, lads. Darrell, I'm fishing a very weedy water with a no lead core rule. When chucking naked chods to shows, how high would you be happy setting your top bead? As I feel the weed is around 2 to 3 foot. Would you be okay setting your bead at 3 foot?
Yeah, it's not ideal, but I'd even be happy with the bead set like 4 or 5 foot up the line if I thought it necessary. Because if the weed is 3 foot, you don't want the bead at 3 foot. You want to allow that, because it's going to plummet into the water fast. You want it to sort of, the lead hits the bottom, and then that come to rest gently. So if you think the weed is 3 foot, I'd try and set the bead at 4.5. So you've got a little bit of leeway. If it's sort of 2 foot, maybe 3.5 foot with the top bead. And one of the top tips when you are chod fishing in weed is don't do the classic hit the clip and pull the rig back towards you before feeling it down, because what you can end up doing is pulling the chod, the hook link part of the chod, down to the lead and then feeling it down as a pile. Really, you want to sort of trap a chod cast. So you cast it out, the bead's flying up the line, the rig's flying up the line, it hits the top bead, and you just trap it so it sort of lands with the rig right up by the bead. You don't want that hook link travelling back down to the lead as it goes down through the water.
Cool. Hopefully that helps. Sam Lemon, who is on one of our socials at Freos, he's currently on Peg 7, I believe. If you remember, we spoke about it in a CarpFix live a few months ago.
Okay.
He's had one. He caught one.
Yeah.
But it's quiet. I think a 70-pounder. I recognise a fish, one of the commons that came out of Peg 4, I think, last night.
Okay.
But yeah, generally fishing quiet on there. I imagine they're probably just going around the island in those trees. But yeah, very hard. Like, imagine if they took those snags out. What do you think they would?
They still go there because it's away from angling pressure.
Yeah,
Angling pressure.
yeah, I suppose.
It's
it's still going to go there.
It doesn't matter where you fish.
Yeah.
Even if you fish places that are lightly fished, right? They will still hold in the areas that never get fished. You know, they will come out more on the less pressured venues, but even you only have to fish from a little bit for them to be nervous of being in the areas where you can fish from.
Yeah,
it's just a natural thing. But I think they spend a lot of time out in that snaggy bit. But because there's a good head of fish in there, they've probably eaten all of the natural food in that part of the lake a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So they have to come out.
Yeah.
You know, they have to come out, and they do come out.
Yeah, they've got to eat, haven't they? Unless they're just eating crays, but.
Yeah.
Right, Ross, hello lads. Watched your video on Credence. I'm booked next Sunday for 3 nights as it's a different time of year. Would your approach be different, or just fish for a bite at a time and spread the rods? So Credence going into this time.
I think they'll still be round the margins. I think in my mind that's what I think they'll be round the edges, patrolling the margins of the lake. With regards to tactics, literally everyone and their uncle will be using Ronnie rigs and bright pop-ups. Like, it's such a overfish method these days. I know the boys from Corda have been doing it underwater. Just at the moment they're filming it, and they've been having watching fish just ignoring yellow pop-ups. You know, the go-to that we all talk about all the time, and fish just literally ignoring it. You know, so maybe it might be worth trying a match the hatch wafter rather than a pop-up, fishing with a little bit of crumb, you know, not masses of bait, but yeah, I'd look to spread it out a bit. I know you've got to use the bait boat to put the rigs, but maybe you could go round to the far banks and feed your swim a little bit more spread out to encourage a little bit more sort of free feeding, building up their confidence rather than just that tiny pile. Tiny piles are really good in cold water situations. They're good in all things, but on a lake that's bait boats only, that is all they're seeing. Most people won't bother to go and spread some bait out. With the weather we've had, time of year, I think a little bit of a more bigger area and a little bit more natural looking hook bait rather than a blatant pop up on a Ronnie rig. That's what I'd say.
Cool. Isaac from Canada is watching. Hello, Isaac. And Gaz the Jailer is here. Hi, lads. Hope you're both good. Joe, fair weather evening. Matt Pearson, evening both. Which is your favourite knot for 0.06 whiplash to 50-pound armour cord?
Good question, that. He's obviously going long. First of all, did you say £50 armour cord?
Yeah.
I would probably... You can use 50, and I have used 50, but I would recommend you use the 30. It makes a smaller knot, and it's got more of a coarseness to it. The £30, it's got a rougher texture to it, which means that your knots bind better. So I would use what is called a Marhin knot, which basically you get the 30 or the £50 armour cord. You tie an overhand knot in it, but you don't pull it fully tight. You go through with your fine whiplash through that knot, give yourself a decent 6-inch length, 10 times around the shock leader, so 10 times around the armour cord, and then 5 turns back down, and then make sure that you've gone in through the front of the overhand knot, and then you come back out through the back. So both lengths of the fine material, the whiplash, come out of the overhand knot in the same direction. Pull the overhand knot tight, moisten from the bottom of the knot to the point of the knot, and pull it down, and it looks like a carrot. Some people call it a carrot knot. But yeah, if obviously you're listening to me telling you exactly how to do it, it's probably going in one ear out the other. But if you just type in Marhin knot into YouTube, there are bound to be videos on there of how to tie that.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful knot.
Beautiful. Robert Joynson. Apologies if I've pronounced that wrong. Evening, Darrell. The fish in my lake spawned a couple of days ago, and it looks like the lake will be reopened next weekend. There's around 70 carp in 15 acres. Average size is mid-20s. I don't know if this is a Y or a wood, but he's got Y wood. You recommend a pre-baiting ahead of the reopen. So maybe would you recommend a pre-baiting?
Yeah. They're quite often really up for a good feed after a spawn. Not like instantly after it, like the same day, because they're tired, but they will be looking to get on the feed in the days and weeks that follow. So yeah, I'd be very inclined. If the lake's closed, quite often the lake owners will let you still go there to lead around and find spots and bait up, because they want the fish to get fed. So yeah, that's a great time when the lake's closed to do some plumbing, do some baiting, get some wraps into your telephone note section. And yeah, I would definitely recommend that. That would be a good idea.
Cool. Joe Fairweather. Evening, fellas. Would love some experienced info on particle prep and storage over the hotter months. Always tend to stay away from it, as I just don't know how long it keeps when it is too off. So yeah, any storage for particle? I mean, you tend to just cook it for that session and use it, or do you prep?
Sometimes if I know I'm going to go into the same place regularly, I'll cook up sacks worth and I'll put it into buckets and then put it into my chest freezer. Some people don't like freezing like tigers, because what happens is they get a bit softer, a bit mushier. They lose their sort of crunchiness a little bit. Doesn't bother me, but yeah, with regards to sourness, some people think that particles are at their best when they've gone rancid, when they smell off like sick. And some people think that they're no good. In my opinion, they work when they're fresh, they work when they're just on the turn, and they work when they're going off. You know, I don't prefer them in any state. I don't refreeze them after they've gone like a bit sicky smelling. But I wouldn't, if I was like in my session like 3 days in the summer and it started to smell a bit funny, that wouldn't put me off, because I've caught loads of times on particles that smell a bit funky. But yeah, really, it depends. Like certain particles turn quickly and smell funny, like peanuts, for example. Yeah, I don't really like the smell of them after they've been cooked. Like 3 days later, they do smell a bit weird. And I prefer peanuts fresh. But the other particles, like hemp, party blend, tigers, yeah, I've used them in all different stages of freshness, and it's... I've told this story once before, but I had some tigers in my van that had been in there for months, like to the point that they've got blue fur across the top of them. And I found this spot on my local syndicate at the time, and I was just about to leave the lake when I found this spot and see some fish on it, and I had no bait left. And I just remembered, I got to the car, put my gear in the van, and saw these 2 buckets of tigers that had been in there for months. And I thought, this could ruin that spot, or it could be the one. and I baited it up. When I came back, they'd eaten the whole lot, and I caught on it. And I
wish you had some more.
Yeah, and they smelled like they smelled like alcohol.
Yeah, just
literally smelled like booze, and they incinerated and dug craters in the bottom for them. So, but I've caught them tigers that are still warm. That I've boiled them up the night before, gone to the lake. When I've got them, my bucket is still hot, and I've caught them like that.
You think in that case they could be too fresh or not?
No, because I don't. I think like when they're left in the bucket, stuff is leaching out of them over time as they're fermenting. So that stuff that is leaching out of them is still in them before. If you use them really fresh, then they'll be doing that on the lake bed.
Yeah.
Whereas when you leave them in the bucket for a long time, that stuff's leached out into the bucket, but that liquid is dense, and when you spot out, that liquid sinks to the bottom and is in the area as well. So it's as much as like,
yeah. Well, hopefully there's a few bits you can take from that.
I'd love to try it in a pond where you have some like fresh ones and some like stinky rank ones, and just like see if they had a preference. I know they'd eat both.
Yeah,
whether they
I think who knows. Beer, boobs and techno has got a very long question here, so bear with me. Evening gents, hope you're both well. With this surprising mini heat wave causing the temperatures to rise quicker than normal, would you stick to normal spring tactics of single yellow pop-up small bags etc, or would you increase the amount of bait you use and alter your tactics? Also, I'm not sure if my brain's been demented by too many stellars, but I've been using a lot of zigs on my lake due to the abundance of tadpoles present, but have not had any takes. I've also noticed my lake has a lot of random black bits like reed stems and shit. Could this be why my black zigs aren't working?
In my opinion, zigs are at their best February to April. I always think that they really at their best February through to April. I think once you get into May, I think the fish are more inclined to be eating rather than just swimming around in the upper layers. You still catch on black foam and whatnot, but I can't say why you're not catching on it because I'm not there looking at the situation and seeing all the little intricacies of what's going on. But I would say that with the weather that we've had, usually from the middle of May is when I start putting the spom out, or putting a bit of bait around the rod. Generally, my spring tactics will be single pop-ups, couple of spoms, couple of pouchfuls just around the rod, that sort of thing. That's a normal sort of big fish approach on a difficult lake. Just a little bit of something from the sea, but not a lot to get them overfed. But I think once you're into the middle of May, especially post spawning, then it's on. You're on. It's time to just fish normally. Put some bait out, and they'll eat it if they're in the mood and the weather's good.
There was when me and Rob were filming last week. There was loads of tadpoles in the lake.
Yeah, I wonder if they eat them. I don't know.
Well, Rob seemed to think that they were poisonous to them.
I've heard this, but
yeah, and we were doing the underwater, the Corder one when we were down. Yeah, and they were. Were you there on that? No, but they were. Have you seen any shots of it?
Yeah,
they come over in like an army.
Yeah,
they go on. They go on the spot and they'll just sit there, like literally come over in a big line, like it's World War III, and they'll just go over the spot and cover where the bait is, and sit there for ages. And then they'll just bugger off and move on. But it's same time every day they came over the spot.
Toxic tadpoles.
And I'm wondering whether, like when Rob was fishing last week, because the week before we had some other guys testing the lake on there, having a little fish, and they were catching loads of fish, but I guess the tadpoles weren't as prolific. We turned up, loads of tadpoles. He caught a few fish, but I'm wondering whether he was just casting out and the tadpoles were just sitting on the bait.
I would have thought that's great natural food for carp.
I would, but I don't think they like them.
I don't know.
I don't think they like them, personally.
No.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. It was hilarious watching. Yeah. I don't know if that's coming out, that film, but hopefully if Sean Ladd does do that one, I'm sure he'll try and make a thing of the tadpoles coming, because it was pretty funny watching it. I know it wasn't funny for the guys fishing, but it was good. Good TV. Isaac, hey Scott, taking out the new gear I got from you. Loving the Kaizen greens. They might be the first ones in Canada. Sent him some Kaizen greens over. Yeah. He's already caught on them, which is good.
Nice.
Yeah, I was a bit worried about shipping Kaizen greens to Canada.
Yeah.
But they made it.
Yeah.
Good old UPS.
Yeah.
Luke Clements. Oi, lads. Love CarpFix. I have 2 questions. Scott, when are you getting more road to a 60? And 2, on a lake riddled with nuisance fish, no nuts allowed, would you go with a straight boilie approach?
You answer the first part.
Well, if I get 2 minutes to go fishing, I might go back.
Yeah.
But
how is Grenville fishing? Is it fishing all right?
I think this fish. I've not spoke to Paul for a little while because he was away with his little one. That was last week. When was half term? Last week or the week before?
Easter.
Anyway, he's been away, so I've not talked to him for a good 2-3 weeks. But there's a 60. I think there's been a few 60s out. Yeah. As always, it's fishing fine. There's people going on there.
Basically.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Get over there, mate.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. So on a lake riddled with nuisance fish, no nuts allowed. Would you go with a straight boilie approach?
Yeah. Like 22 mil if you can. 20 millers seem big, but they really, really are not. I used to fish 20 millers all the time when I was in my early 20s and used to catch all sizes of carp on them. But yeah, I think if it's really bad, once you get up to 22, 24, they really do put off the nuisance fish. But I think 20 is a great starting point. If you're still catching lots of nuisance fish, then go bigger. Yeah. But, yeah, and try not to fish mealy ones, like fish meal boilies for. Like in bream and tench are a nightmare. Go more for a nut-based boilie.
Yeah. Did you listen to the Quarter podcast?
Which one?
They're one of the latest ones. I forget how they name them or number them. But
what was it about?
All sorts. They just talk random stuff, don't they?
Where are you going with
Big boilies.
Big boilies.
Yeah, Damo was saying one of his mates. Is it Regan or something?
Regan, yeah, I didn't listen to that one.
Yeah. But he's using like 24s, 26s.
Yeah, I think 24s. He said.
But I look at a bag of boilies, 20 millers, and to me they don't look big. Like I think a 20 mil but a lot of anglers, I think generally probably use 16s. That's like the average size probably, isn't it? But I think a 20 mil boilie, I don't think it's that big. Like, should people be using bigger baits
on the right lakes?
Yeah,
on the right lakes, lakes with nuisance fish, the carp are used to the fact that nuisance fish are, if it's full of roach, full of bream, full of tench, full of perch, all these little fish are eating all the little bugs, all the little bits and pieces within the lake. And in that situation, the carp are more happy to take advantage of bigger food items because it's almost like they understand, not in a intelligent way, but they understand that this is available to me because they haven't eaten it, Because I've noticed that on lakes that are like mixed fisheries that are riddled with coarse fish, they are more happy to eat bigger food items. Whereas if you fish somewhere that's carp only, sometimes they only eat maggots and stuff because they're eating all the natural food that's left in the lake. Yeah.
So there's a time and a place to use them.
They're not scary. You just got to Yeah, if you are getting nuisance fish, then I would definitely. I'd be happy. I'd be really happy.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking when I go to Gigantica this August coming for CarpFix, that I might fish a straight boilie approach, knowing full well I won't catch as many. I know that I won't catch as many fishing straight boilie as I fish in Parco. Yeah. But I'm going to catch anyway. I want to set my stall out to catch a big one.
Yeah. You see shoulders.
Yeah. And I might just fish straight 20 millers with no chops, no liquid, just opening day, straight out 15 kilos. And if I don't catch for 3 days, I won't rebait. And if I do catch, I'll just go in with another 5 key. Yeah. And bigger. And that's not a lot for Gigantica.
No. No. Yeah, that when I saw that fish the other day, popped up on, or maybe this morning.
Yeah, it's nice.
That is an incredible fish.
Yeah. Think about that immaculate that's in there, mate.
Yeah. That's the thing, they've got massive mouths.
Massive mouths.
Like, you could fit 4 24 millers in a mouth.
Yeah. It's obviously when you
next to each other,
quite far out. Big boilies don't cast very well.
Yeah.
You know, you don't fish that far out over there, like 30, 33 reps.
Yeah.
Depend on the wind. But yeah, you get a big crosswind and the 24 miller going out there like
Yeah,
that.
helicopter. Yeah. Why am I wearing sunglasses?
It was sunny on the way in.
It was.
Yeah.
Right. Where am I? I've lost where I was. Oh yeah, Isaac. Okay, Darren. Evening, gents. Any idea when the prototype kickers are due out?
They're coming in May. Basically, there's.
I have a date.
I think they changed the date, haven't they?
I've got a date. I'll while you talk, I'll have a look.
Basically, they've got a few different products coming out. One of them is the new Kaizen Green floater rod. One of them is the Combi Multi kicker. Lewis, who I was with today, told me that the multi combi kickers are arriving at Corda HQ today or tomorrow. And yeah, they're on this May launch, and as Scotty has got a shop, he will know when that launch is.
I'm just trying to find it. I'm trying to find it. I tell you what, the one that I really like. I mean, it's always a product that already is out. Is the Kaizen Green net, but the two-piece Kaizen Green net.
Okay, yeah.
I think that'll be a good one. But yeah, Shot on the Hook is going to be out in this launch as well.
Oh, is it?
And some cell floaters. Did you know that?
I think so, because we were supposed to have them today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were supposed to be having them to get them in the film, but they didn't come in time, so we were just using Tesco stock biscuits.
Yeah, cell float. Yeah, I'm just trying to. I'll find the date. It's like middle of May. It's not far away. Yeah, within. I think it might be the 12th or the 14th.
Yeah, okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'll have a look, but yeah, they look nice though. Yeah. Have they been made to your specification?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
The medium ones are meant for size 6 hooks, and they're quite tight. And I think on a cold day, you could struggle to get them on. Like you have freezing fingers. And if that was the case, you could use the larger size, because they're still quite fine and nice, that are meant for the 4s, and just trim it back a little bit.
Right.
They're really nice. They're really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Nathan, evening guys, bloody awesome weather. Question for yourself and Darrell: what are your after spawning tactics regarding areas and amounts of bait if the weather is still high pressure? I mean, we touched a little bit, but we'll keep going with it, because
basically, the difference between spring and summer is when the water's first warming in the spring, fish are sort of like actively searching out the lake. They're just like moving around, looking, not really feeding, just wind changes, angling pressure, they're just getting around the lake. As you get post-spawning and the weed on some lakes takes hold, they can become a bit more, they get more into a bit of a routine, like they have areas that they'll like, and you won't be able to just chuck anywhere on a lot of lakes. You've got to find spots and whatnot. So the difference in tactics is applying bait. And maybe if you're fishing a venue regularly, sort of understanding where the fish are frequenting, where they like to be, where they might have like 3 or 4 areas on the lake where they keep visiting back and forth, and it can be real key to get the plumbing done, to find the best spots within those areas, and know when to be in those areas at the right time, what conditions bring those fish to those areas. So yeah, spring, I feel that the fish are highly mobile, not really on the munch, constantly on the move, and sort of moving from angling pressure and wind changes and whatnot. Whereas summer, they get more onto the bait, and yeah, they're more inclined to have a bit of a feed.
16th of May is the launch, by the way. FYI, just so you know. Chappers. Scenario: this time of year on a work overnighter, 6-acre deepish lake, 14-15 foot, and weedy and blue-dyed. Fish aren't showing on the surface or topping. How would you decide to fish, and why?
Read it to me one more time.
This time of year on a work overnighter, 6-acre deepish lake, 14 to 15 foot, and weedy and blue-dyed. Fish aren't showing on the surface or topping. How would you decide to fish, and why? I mean, there's plenty of lakes like that.
Isn't very deep.
No. It was 14, 15 foot, yeah.
So it's very big. 6 acres isn't very big.
Yeah.
But 14 feet is pretty deep. And for me, I wouldn't feel very happy fishing in 14 foot in warm conditions yet at the moment. You know, once you get a little bit further into summer, I feel that it's not too deep. But at the moment, I think that is quite deep. You know, but you've got a real captive audience of fish. Did you say weedy?
Yeah, weedy and blue-dyed, which...
Yeah, I'd probably be... Zigs could still be in the mix for sure. And they're a great way to fish on overnighters because you haven't got to disturb the swim. You can literally just make 3 casts, plop, 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 be out there with black foam. And although you think black foam in the night, what are the chances of fish finding it? I promise you, a piece of black foam on a zig rig is 100 times more effective than a single pop-up at night. And that might sound, it doesn't matter what you've glugged your pop-ups in or whatever. And the reason for that is when the carp is looking down in the dark, there's no light down there. But where it's looking up to the surface, the bait is silhouetted against the top. So, do not underestimate the carp being able to find a piece of black foam in the dark through sight and not through smell. I would, if the lake was deep, I'd be looking to fish 4 to 5 foot below the surface over the weed. So if the weed will be low lying at this time of year, and a lot of people will only fish on the clear spots with their normal presentation. So being able to fish over the areas where people don't normally, minimal disturbance, often on like a warm wind, the fish will be on the end of it, or if it's cold, maybe on the back of it on a sheltered area. But I would think that would be a very good starting place because I think it's 14 foot's a bit deep to be on the bottom just yet.
Cool. Hopefully that helps and good luck. Dominic Ball, good evening, gents. Love your content. First time I've managed to catch a live show. Thanks for all the great content. Keep it up. Thank you. Cheers. Peter Kingsbury, when zig fishing, are you ever concerned regarding build-up of algae on your lines?
Good question.
Yeah, we've not had that one before.
It's a good question, though, and it's like what you got to think is everything in the lake is getting sediment build up on it because that's just the nature of it being in the lake. If your line's in the lake, you get sediment on it, and so does bits of weed, so does bits of twig and whatnot. And I think in some ways that could potentially actually make it look more natural, like make it be at home. I've caught so many fish on zig rigs that have been out a long time for it to not overly faze me. I'm more confident in clearer water with a zig, so I've definitely done better on zig rigs in clear water, regardless of sediment. But I don't tend to worry too much about sediment. I worry more about the clarity, because I think fish take zigs on sight, and I think we all talk about having the zig at the right height so that the fish would come down onto it, but I actually think it's the opposite of that. I think you want to have your zigs slightly taller than the level that the fish are. So if you imagine the nose of a carp, I'd rather my zig be like half a foot to a foot taller than the level that they're coming at, because I think they go up onto it because they're like looking in a direction.
Cool. Mike Bean, last night in France, any recommendations for a chunk? I mean, it might be a little bit late given it's your last night, but can you pray for him?
Well, there's not a lot you can do now. It's getting dark out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
If in doubt, smack a solid bag out.
Yeah. You could try that, yeah. Liam Hooker, how do you get your tigers so gloopy?
No specific real method. I sort of, my standard tactic tigers, I've said it a few times on here, is just I put them into the Parco, dry. I fill it up with water, 2 parts water to 1 part tiger nuts, and then I boil them for half an hour. I turn off the Parco and I leave them overnight, and they then soak on and continue to swell. And it's really important that there's enough water in there so they don't sort of end up going dry as they continue to soak on. And then if you leave them for a couple of days, a few days, they'll go gloopy. But I've always found that when I freeze mine quite often, so I like boil them, leave them for 24 hours, put them in the freezer, and then when they thaw, they're instantly gloopy. They're literally instantly gloopy. So, yeah, I don't think it's overly important, but yeah, that's how I do it.
They look better though, don't they?
Yeah, look at me, I try.
Yeah, gloopy tigers. Catch more carp.
Yeah.
Daniel Hockaday, evening both. We all know the ugly side of fishing can produce a lot of negative comments, rumours and such like. How do you manage your own mental health during this time?
You've got to look at when you have compliments. So someone in my position, you get someone to say, "Oh, Darrell's a great angler," or "Darrell's a good angler," and you take that's one side of things. These guys don't even know me, and then you'll have someone who say something negative. He's a full timer. He does X, Y, or Z. You know, and you've got both ends of the scale, and over time you just tend not to take either of them. It doesn't really matter, you know. Fishing is my job. Fishing is my passion, and I understand that you have jealousy. You will have people that are scared, as in, like, say you turn up to a lake and you're a well-known angler, then they think that you're going to catch the fish that they want to catch, so they're threatened, and then they act horrible or not so well towards you or make snidey comments. But social media negativity, I liken it to road rage. You can pull out on someone by accident, completely unintentional, and someone will start barking at you like a rabid dog from behind their car, you know, because they're within their comfort zone, and that's the same as being behind a keyboard. But the truth is, you bump into the lake. I've very, very, very rarely had any sort of altercations on the bank. You've had people's bitching and like whinging to people behind your back and stuff, and you're just going to get it all the time. But with regards to mental health, it's just like, you just got to understand that it's just part of the game. You know, it's just part of human nature, as in, not everyone wants the best for you. You know, that's you want to believe that everyone wants the best for you and you want the best for them, but the truth is, it's a competitive world out there, and people are all trying to get one up on each other, and as long as you understand that that's not personal, it's just they want to they're trying to do what's best for them, not what's best for you. And yeah, that's just human nature. It's just the way it is.
I think it's like the negative people that are out there, that is just how they are. They're never going to change it, and it's like they're on a mission just to have snidey comments about anything and everything. And if you can put that past you, that is just how they are, and just ignore it because it doesn't mean anything.
I think some people are just desperate to be heard.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? When you say something muggy like that, it draws a bit of traction from snidey people, like you say. And it's like these people wouldn't get any sort of attention normally. So to attack someone that's well known gives them they feel like they've got a voice and they're being heard and they're being listened to. Yeah. It's like, whatever, mate.
Yeah. Just blow it off.
Whatever.
Yeah. Try not surround yourself with negative people. That is one of the things that I try and do. I try and surround myself with positive people, and if there is negativity, I ignore it. That's what I do. Yeah. Completely ignore it, because there's no point. Yeah. And there's a lot of it because we deal with it every day because we work on social media, but that is just the beauty of it. Ignore it. That's how I get over it. Where are we on here? Here we go. Sean Davey. Hi guys, wanting to use braid for some long distance casting. Any recommendations online? Any do's and don'ts would be a big help. Cheers.
Depends. Long range casting, you know, the trouble with braid is it comes in two sort of different forms. You have sinking braid and you have floating braid, and generally the floating braid, like your spod braids and your whiplashes and that, they will cast much, much, much further than your sinking braids, but they float up to the surface, drifting debris moves into the line, and swans swimming through your line. It's carnage. So the one that's sort of in the middle between the two types is the fox submerged braid, which is yeah, it comes under their naturals range, and I think the thinnest one they do is the 35 pound. Now that it's not fast sinking braid. In fact, it's quite difficult to get it through the film, but it will stay below the surface, and that's the most important thing. So if it's on the surface floating braid, stuff will gather on it and it pull you off the spot, or swans will swim through it, etc. But if you want to fish really far out, I think that Fox Submerge is probably a good bet. I think it's a good. It's I wouldn't say it's a neutral, because it does sink. It does sink, but it's not a fast sinking braid.
Cool. Michael, hi mate. Heading to Carp Arena, Clover Lake in June for my first ever European trip. Any advice, bait and rigs? That's the one that we've been to, isn't it?
Clover Lake.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah. It's when's it going?
June.
Yeah. Thing is, I've only fished it. I fished it once in August.
When did I go with Stokesy? That one was May, June, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With Corder.
Was it?
Yeah, I think I went and we fished that big swim.
Were you towing across to the? What I was going to say, was you towing to the margins, or were you towing to holes in the weed?
No, it was when we were. I was with Stokesy. You were. It was a Corder trip. Wasn't that May, June? Oh, was it? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Ignore me.
Basically, what I was going to get at is before the weed comes up, the fish are absolutely they're trying to pack themselves under the last little trees and stuff to sort of hide under and get into the real shallow water in the snags. And that's the best tactic in the spring, fishing tight to the far margins, under the trees, etc., etc. However, I have heard that when it gets weedy, fishing in the holes in the weed in the open water can be productive. So, yeah, if it's not weedy, I reckon they'll be tight in the margins on all swims. And if it is weedy, you'd be looking for the small holes in the weed where the fish are.
Yeah, check out. I'm pretty sure we've got a film with Stokesy fishing when he's in that situation, fishing in the holes in the weed with where Ash went and did.
I done a film there with Ash in August.
Yeah,
there wasn't much weed when we went, so we were towing to the margins.
I'm pretty sure there's one with Stokesy.
Yeah,
Clover Lake. It'll be this one. Carp, fishing for carp in weed.
Yeah.
That
might not be quite up yet.
It might not be that. Yeah. But there's plenty of videos out there.
But that's what it will be. That will be the two deciding factors. If there's no weed, you'll be towing tight to the far margins, and if there is weed, you'll be fishing in the holes in the weed where you're seeing the fish.
And you can use the same tactics.
Yeah. It'll be your hand. Go out with a rod, put it down, cut the handfuls of bait, just enough for a bite.
Yeah. Go back and have a beer.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like tigers in there for sure.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Like, Dan doesn't do stupid, silly rules. Like, he allows things in moderation. If you can use tigers,
they work on it.
And it's good to use. Well, it's not. Use them if you can. David Booton, evening guys. What would be your tactics fishing a 40-foot deep bowl after 20 foot out with little features? What would
a 40-foot deep bowl?
Yeah, after 20 foot out with little features.
Well, you'd either be fishing right in the margins. You find on those really deep lakes that they'll come right in the edge to the shallowest spots on the lake. So I'd be searching for I'd be searching every margin for the shallowest spots possible, and watching where the fish show tight to the bank, because that will give away where they're getting close. Because a lot of time on deep lakes, they'll spend a lot of time just cruising around over the deep water, going nowhere near the bottom. Now, floater fishing can be brilliant in that situation, as can adjustable zig rigs. But yeah, I'd also be very, very highly alert to where the fish show close in and looking for the shallowest spots. If it's 40 foot, like 15 foot in the margins is shallow water. And if they're showing there frequently, then that's an area where they're probably feeding, because carp has to feed. And although it can eat sort of stuff in mid-water, they'll be 100% looking for areas to go down on the bottom and have a route around. So, yeah, look in the margins. That would be my top tip.
Beautiful. Darren, would you go all boilie approach at Gigantica this time of year? I'm out there next Saturday. Shame about the release date. Would have been handy to have them for the trip.
That's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. When's he going?
Next Saturday.
Week?
Yeah, a week tomorrow.
Okay. Would I go with a boilie only approach at the moment? I know it's been fishing fantastically well on zig rigs, but that said, I went there once at the beginning of May, fished in the Alamo, just as it warmed up, and absolutely clubbed them on boilie. I was fishing. To start with, I had different mixes going on. I had essential cell with maize and corn and pellets and hemp and all sorts. And then towards the end of the trip, I went with pellet 10mm boilie. There's the video's out. It's me and Dan. It's on. There's a video of me and Dan at Gigantica. I think the thumbnail's me with that fish called Pips. It's done lots of views. I think it's the last Gigantica video on there, possibly. But yeah, that'll be a great video to watch because you'll see the tactics that we used. We did catch them on bait at the beginning of May and done really good.
Yeah, cool. Have you seen the BC, Darrell?
Have I seen it?
Yeah.
What, recently?
Well, I don't know. Just said, have you seen it? I mean, recently, and have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it recently. I've only been to Burfield a few times. But in 2014, I saw it several times, and I don't mean several times in one day. I saw it on the last day of April, and then I saw it at least 6, I'd say maybe even as many as 10 times before the end of June. So in like a 2-month period, I saw it a lot, but I never saw it eat anything, and I never see it anywhere near the bottom. Always just sunbathing. And I never got that next clue as into where it was going to feed. It's a very, very difficult carp to catch. That very difficult. Almost verging on but it's not impossible because other people have done it. But very, very seldom caught. I think it's been out 13 or 14 times in 30 years.
Wow.
So you're looking every other year. There's people on that lake that have fished there for 20 years and have caught hundreds of carp over those 20 years and not caught it. And there's not just do this or it comes just from this. It's bordering on impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean Davey, he was asking about the long distance braid casting. He's also said, also fishing Twas Eels, Peg 3, August. Any recommendations that time of year with cray issues? We were talking about this, weren't we? We were unsure as to what may happen with the crays.
Yeah. What time of year?
August.
Yes, obviously August is high time for the crayfish. Tiger nut hook baits, plastic hook baits will be obviously a real. I wouldn't bother that shrink wrap stuff, honestly.
No.
For me, a shrink wrap's not the one. But in Peg 3, I would look to fish long out towards the island because you definitely get some traffic round there at some point in the week. But I'd fill it in every day, relentlessly.
I'd just go as long as you can to that island and just put in as much, if the crays are that bad, based on what we had, the experience we had.
I think hemp tigers.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if they're allowed to loose feed tigers. I think because they change the rules depending on how bad the crayfish are. But yeah, you'll definitely want to have some sort of hard hook bait, whether it's plastic or tiger nut, and you'll definitely want to put regular feed out. That it won't matter how much you put out, the crays are going to eat it. So you're going to need to keep baiting each day, and it can be a real tiring job fishing at long range in boiling, scorching heat. So yeah.
Don't expect a holiday.
It'll be hard work. You might have to write off your mornings for spomming. You don't want to be. You could spom into dark, couldn't you?
Yeah.
You could once it cools off.
Yeah.
But the coolest time of day is the morning.
Yes.
So that might be a good time to do it, like to get up early and just go to town with the spod rod up until lunch.
That'd be horrendous to do that.
Yeah.
Greg, evening lads, got the first trip to Parco, Italy in a few weeks. Never been. Just wondering your approach to a water like this.
I've only been to Parco once, and the fish in there are highly, highly tuned to the pellet, because the pellet gets sold around the lake, everyone uses it, they're just switched onto it, and you'd be a fool not to buy some of the house pellet. It's all good taking your own, but you really should be using the pellet that they're feeding. Solid bags or even a method feeder, brilliant tactic. And yeah, just you'd fish it like anywhere, as in you'd spawn up an area with pellet, with maybe some other particles mixed in if you're allowed, or boilies. I'd probably just go with straight pellet, probably, and then I fish solid bags over the top, or PVA sticks over the top.
I had a guy come in the shop last week. He's a regular. He went over to Parco like literally 2 weeks ago, maybe less. And it's like a mate's trip. Him and his mates went. He went in with the solid bags, had a really good week, caught loads of fish, and his mate started off by putting quite a lot of bait in.
Boiling?
I think so, yeah. I think the main, like, he didn't say exactly what, but it just sounded like he was there. I'll ask him next time, but I'm pretty sure it was just they put a good quantity of bait out, and they had a slow start. Eventually they caught. What time of year was it recently? This was like last week, week before that.
Half a deep lake. So like what I was saying, it's a bit early for deep lakes on the bottom, even somewhere like Italy. But if you're going out post spawning.
Yes, it's different.
They're going to be down in the deep and they're going to be hungry.
Yeah, that's the thing. They might have been. These guys might have been there last year, a little bit later, which warranted probably putting a bit of bait out. Yeah. But yeah, just go. Yeah,
you've got to read the situation.
Yeah.
When you get there, one of the questions that you're going to ask is, how did the lake fish last week? And if he says there was only a few out, it's a bit tough. And the ones that came out on bags tells you a lot. Tells you that they're not really on it. Whereas if you get there and say, kicking off, people filling it in and catching, then you know they're on.
Yeah.
You just have to sort of make the read on what's happened the week before a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, we know that place produces with little bags. Even though the fish are so big, you don't need to be.
You can start with bags, can't you?
Yeah.
And then you generally don't need, on most places, you don't need a lot of bait to get the party started. And obviously we've had the chat about Grenville's different situation where you can put loads of bait out and it just draws them in and you can catch really well over it. But on most lakes you build hits. You start light and you catch a few and then you top up and you catch a few and top up, and that's always a much safer approach than loading it up, because you can ruin the first part of your holiday by doing that.
Yeah. Good luck. Sam Lemon, buzzing, just landed my second fish. We must have brought you some luck.
Definitely did.
I hope it's a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nice. It's been out all week to catch a fish on the last night as well. I think he caught his first one on Tuesday, so he's had them, it's a long gap, isn't it?
Yeah. 3 nights without a bite is it's like doubting everything, don't you?
Yeah. But at least it'll make the drive home a bit easier.
Yeah.
Liam Hooker, this is the last question, by the way. How would you approach Gigantica Road Lake in September?
Prime time. I'd do my best to come out the draw first and get somewhere near that causeway on that bund or whatever.
Apparently you got a new swim
there.
Yeah?
I don't know exactly, but obviously Rob's going there in September, isn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, Road Lake is full of big fish. They absolutely love bait. The only downfall of Road Lake is it can be quite swimmy, in that sometimes over the years they're like in one half and not in the other half, because it's like almost like 2 separate lakes joined, and like you've got to make a read are you in the end with loads of fish? If you are in a good swim in the end where all the fish are, then I would say give it to them, give them a load of bait, because they'll be hungry. But if you get a bad draw, end up in the half a lake where the bulk of the fish aren't, you probably most definitely better to start very cautiously, put a little bit of bait out, keep the disturbance down, like know that you're not catching because the fish aren't there, and don't keep recasting all the time. So I'd make my plumbing on the Saturday, find my spots, put a little bit of bait out, maybe like 10 to 20 spoms over each or over an area, depending on how many rods you're going to put, either over a rod or over 3 rods, whatever you're going to do. But I wouldn't keep topping that up if the fish weren't near me, because there's no point. You're just putting bait on top of bait if it's not getting eaten. So you've got to make the read on: am I in a good swim? Am I not in a good swim? Decide what you're going to do accordingly. With regards to bait, just ask the bailiffs, because they put out quite a mix there, because the fish should just get on their parcels, because they sell them to everyone. It becomes like natural food. So it might be that they say get on the hemp, pellet and maize. They might say they're on the straight boilie, but just get in touch with the bailiffs. They'll know what's going on, and bait accordingly depending on your location.
Beautiful. That's it. That is the 47th CarpFix Live done. We will be back in a month's time, when it'll be June, when they'll probably be having a second go at spawning, no doubt.
More than likely.
Yeah. We've got a Burgess film and a Stokesy film in the pipeline for the next couple of weeks, and then we'll hopefully have a Darrell film if you manage to catch some fish on the floaters. And then, we've got some of the bits and pieces lined up. So, if you're out fishing, have a good one, and we'll see you in June.
See you in June. Thanks for listening.